Okay. I haven't. Fuck. What am I doing? I haven't done a video like this in a long time. So I figured I'd start the new year like this. This is gonna be so weird. This shit is so close to my face. Yeah, my teeth. I took those two out by myself. And the dentist took those two out because my wisdom teeth were giving me problems. As you can see, I did just as good a job as the dentist would have. But anyways, this shit is way too close to my face. But let's roll with it. Because the microphone is right there. I'm using the camcorder microphone for like the first time ever. So hopefully this turns out okay. You know what? I'm gonna stop this right now and actually test this audio to make sure it's okay. Okay, so I made some minor adjustments. Let's get right into it. What is mogging? So mogging is basically when someone else flaunts their privilege in such a way as to make someone else look bad or look lesser. Privilege could be looks, it could be money, it could be whatever. And the worst mogs are the ones where nothing needs to be said. Like Chad standing next to a rice cell. It's an expression of dominance, basically. I'm gonna find that picture on Reddit where the Chad is standing next to the rice cell, and it's just like that's the summary, the summation of what a mog is. That's one of the biggest mogs of all time. And it's like this kid is a descendant of poor, frail, hunchback rice farmers who had no business procreating and just got to America one generation ago, trying to play catch up with white people, not knowing that the fix is in already. I guess a more normie term for mogging would be flexing. You know, you see that term a lot on social media. This video, by the way, is inspired by a thread on the incel site where he was talking about how mogging, our purpose in life is to get mogged as incels. And I think he was being narrow-minded on purpose, but there's a lot of truth in that post. Flossing is probably another equivalent term, but flossing kind of only applies to material things. I wonder where that term comes from, by the way, flossing. Like, does that have something to do with dental floss? I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to give some examples of mogging. And this is a long list. It's unnecessarily long, to be honest. But, alright, let's go. When a corporation that's basically owns a particular industry buys a bunch of floors in a big fancy building and makes sure that the view is as high up as possible, so they can literally look down on people like gods, that's mogging. When someone rages about the 1% and the Illuminati and all that, but they would sell their soul in a heartbeat and get sodomized by some old Jew if they could just get in the room. Well, that's not a mog, but it's kind of an exemplary of how we live in a mog or be mogged world. When they block city traffic on a major city block so a political envoy can pass, or convoy, or whatever the word is. When there's an empty seat next to you on the train and a girl gets on, contemplates the seat, and opts to stand instead. When a woman puts on heels even though they kill her feet and are dreadfully uncomfortable, but it's that important to her to be 2 inches taller than she actually is, and to have loud footsteps, like the footsteps in the fucking Resident Evil games, the early ones at least, and so she can have a slightly more feminine gait. That's mogging, or at least an attempt at mogging. When a doorman who gets bullshit pay opens the door and fetches bags for Kleinberg Scheckelstein, and who owns a company that makes cotton or whatever, And he does it with a smile because that's part of the job too. That's him getting mogged. When a crook who made his money stealing talks about how he never had a 9-to-5 job, a mafia crook or some other sort of crook. When a normie virtue signals about lackluster education for black kids in the hood and sends their kids to private school, this is actually a double mog because it's a virtue signal. Look at how morally superior I am. And they're also setting their kids up to do better than the kids they're virtue signaling for. When a rich woman in expensive clothes walks right past the homeless, stinking black man who's begging for change and soaked in his own piss, you think she doesn't get a sadistic high off that? She might as well step right over him in those high heels. That's mogging. When a thought with a nice ass puts on skin-tight yoga pants that look like somebody just painted her black from the waist down because it's that revealing of her physical shape and you can even see her ass crack, she's mogging girls who have no asses or who have ugly asses because that's what men want and that's the girl that commands the most attention. That's mogging. When a normie records himself having his annual sex session for no discernible reason at all, that's mogging. I'm making fun of myself with that one actually because that's something I've contemplated doing for a long time but never actually did. When an incel wants society to collapse because life is a permanent mog for him, that's an attempt to unmog or to remog or to become the moggy, the mogger and not the moggy, the hunter and not the hunted. When people go out of their way to talk about their significant other, my wife this, my boyfriend that, especially when they know they're talking to someone who's lonely, just to rub it in their faces, you know. Schadenfreude. When a guy fucks his boss's daughter, that's mogging. Fun fact though, guys who get mad when a guy fucks their daughter are kind of like hypocrites because you had to fuck somebody's daughter to have a daughter. So that's why the solution is not to have kids at all. That's the solution. So moving on. I got some more of these, I think. When the socially awkward kid is ridiculed in class for being slightly different. When Becky spends 100 years on makeup to not get mogged too hard by Stacy but gets mogged by her anyways, and all the orbiters in the world don't make her feel better about that. When that same Becky goes on Stacy's Facebook and says passive-aggressively that her ass is huge. When Stacy hails a cab and pays $20 of money that she didn't earn, beta bucks probably, because she can't be arsed to walk 5 blocks in those high heels. That's mogging. When a black man goes out with a white girl and his ego is boosted because subconsciously he knows and everyone knows that she has more objective value than him. So he has to be special or to even be in the presence of a white girl. Subjective value is one thing. Sure, I of course, as a black man, see myself as way more valuable than even the best white bitch in the world. But in society's eyes, it's the exact opposite. Obviously, I can go on and on with this shit, but you guys get the idea, you know? So with that said, we're going to move into the freestyle portion of the video. And I'm going to try to keep this organized so, you know. I mean, it is organized, but, you know, I'm going to try to really keep it tight here. So it doesn't get too scrambled and confusing. At least not for me. And if it's not like that for me, it probably won't be like that for you. Anyways. So, what I'm going to say is more or less related to the topic at hand. You know. So some people don't go outside. It's an endless mog. That's why, and it's humiliating. You basically have to be a masochist to go outside. It's a mog or be mogged world. This is why video games are a great cope, because you at least have the illusion of meritocracy. if you get this many points or this much whatever, then you'll advance and your rank will be higher or whatever. But it's funny because when I was into competitive, one of the things people would always say to others is, no one cares if you're good at the game. I'm better than you at life because I have this job or I make this amount of money. And you're black anyways, or like this or that. Is it any wonder that life is such a drag for a person who has no inherent ability to mog anybody else? It's essentially what we're wired to do. I mean, and everybody gets mogged at some point. You know, at some point the rich guy has to be in a room with a better looking or a taller guy. You know, at some point even the biggest Chad is going to get out-chatted. But I guess it comes down to probability. You could take Jeremy Meeks for example. He could probably count the amount of times he's been mogged on one hand. You know, see, in the normie world, mogging isn't even a thing that happens though. A normie could spend an entire day with Jeremy Meeks and not see themselves getting mogged. Or better yet, they'll say dumb shit like, wow, I wonder what's his secret. Why do women like him so much? Hey, J-Dog, wanna school me on some game? Jeremy Meeks, while laughing to himself mentally, will say, just be confident and talk to them like you talk to anybody else. And even he's probably dumb enough to believe that because he lives in a Chad bubble where things actually work that way. There's no reason to go out for some people, honestly. Normies want you to participate in the bullshit even though it's futile. Because it makes them look good, you know? What we're seeing here, now that we got to 2020, is hypergamy, hypergamy, hypergamy. She always has one foot out the door. She's always looking to trade up. And it's really sad that we're still lying to ourselves with this happily ever after shit. We really want to believe. We really want that cope. People still get married, dude. Like, they still do that. People attend weddings more reliably than just about any event. The wedding is like the one thing you can literally get people to fly to attend. People you haven't seen in 10 years and shit. You know, we need a Kanye rant for that. I need to make a Kanye rant. You know, Walt Disney lied to you. The Bears lied to you. You know, marriage is a scam. Maybe it always was. You know, the woman makes money. The elite make money, especially when you consider that people's children are just future employees. Nobody looks at their kid. You know, nonetheless, nobody looks at their kid thinking you're going to make a great Uber driver someday. You know, people delude themselves. Despite how statistically likely it is for your child to become an Uber driver. Or something like that in that kind of working class. People still think their kid is going to be special. And I don't know, maybe one day when we reach the singularity or whatever the fuck, it'll turn out to make sense. All's well that ends well, I guess. I don't know. Marriage is a scam. Women are too privileged. And as men, we need to start revoking these privileges because we're not getting enough back for what we give them. I remember I was talking to my brother. We need to go on a worker strike, basically, of sorts. I was talking to my brother and his friend, and they recoiled so hard because neither of them are single. And they were talking about, well, you don't have a family, so you can afford to do what you're doing, which at the time I was moving to another state on a complete whim. Another region. I wasn't moving to, like, you know, a state that's close to where I grew up in New York. And his friend was like, what would you do if you had a wife and kids? And I was just like, I'd leave. And they both recoiled. Like, oh, hell nah. Like, that kind of thing. Like, oh, it was like one of those moments. Like, oh, no, you know. And I'm just thinking, you see, that's a part of the problem with gender relations. Is that we look at women like these precious creatures who can never be abandoned. But they're not grateful for us. They're not grateful to us. they don't look at us like that at all. They take us for granted, you know, as they should, because that's how we are. We allow ourselves to be taken for granted. Most of us, at least. So, anyways, yesterday's Chad is today's normie. Yesterday's normie is today's incel. I've seen Chad lights in relationships with masculine black women, and the relationship is open, and he literally watches her blow other guys and shit like that. I mean, if this is the kind of shit Chad Light is doing for ugly women, then a guy with my looks has no chance whatsoever. I'm pretty sure this guy was a financial cuck on top of all that, too. Why even settle when you're with a woman? You know, why even settle if you're a woman? My bad. Well, I guess both things are true. You can bang countless Chads with little to no consequence. As a matter of fact, if you get pregnant, you'll be rewarded with free money from the government or whatever. The more kids, the more welfare. When you're done having fun with Chad, you can 100% find various men to settle down with and fit the bill. Many of them will even help you take care of Chad's babies, and they'll glorify that cuckold situation. I'm not the father. I'm the father who stepped up. You know, virtue signaling, all that. Nah, you're a cuck. There's a reason society has historically ridiculed men for that. But everything is gynocentric now, and cucks are masochistic men who live to serve and humiliate themselves in the name of pussy. I just had a bitch threaten to smack me because I went to a New Year's celebration, which was nonsense, as expected. I only went because I never did it, and I figured I'd just get the experience under my belt, which, you know, it turned out to be a disappointment. I didn't even really get to see it too much and, like, all that. I normied out, I'm not gonna lie, because, you know, why even go to this shit, right? There's a reason I've never gone up to this point, though. So, you know, there's that. Obviously I could have gone, but I'm just like, whatever, let me just do it. Fuck it. You know, this 1 year. I don't have anything else to do, really. And 2020 is a landmark year. Maybe. I guess. Anyway, some dude was being obnoxious, and he was like, excuse me, and not to me, but just like in general, he just like, excuse me, like being obnoxious. And he pushed the stroller through this insane sea of people, and it's such a sea of people. I mean, you guys probably saw the news, like how many people were there. It's like, you can't even move, really. You can't move a muscle. It's just an ocean of people. So I commented to the person I was with, what kind of sicko would bring a child out in this? And I guess this lady had rabbit ears, or I was drunk and, you know, louder than I actually thought. But she turned to me and was like, me. Like, you know how ghetto women be. Watch your mouth, because you will get smacked on New Year's. And, like, doing all that. And I just kept repeating. I wasn't talking to you, miss. I just kept repeating that over and over. Which was kind of a clever choice of words, because I didn't deny that I was talking about her. I just said I wasn't talking to her. AKA, get out of my face. You know, but there's enough room for confusion that she kind of looked ridiculous. Also, because of my word choice, I guess. Not that she needed help to look ridiculous. But, you know, it was also kind of diffusing the situation, too. But anyways, you guys know I hate hood rats. Needless to say, it was a black woman. You know, surprise, surprise. They have some deep animosity inside them, man. They really do. I don't know if it's daddy issues or what. I'm sure it's a combination of things, but daddy issues is one of the big ones. Yeah. They're always looking to start some shit with somebody. And it's like the powder keg mentality. Anyways, I say this to say, imagine if the genders were reversed and I threatened a woman like that. How are women underprivileged when they can literally walk around threatening to hit men based on almost nothing? Just a slightly offhanded comment that she wasn't even really intended to hear. Yeah, the funny thing is that this happened right next to this guy that was protesting feminism for whatever reason. Well, not that he doesn't have reasons, but like it seems kind of random. And he had this huge sign that said, "Women need to get back in the kitchen," and like all this stuff. And I was like, hell yeah. Like I was praising him, in the crowd. I was like, yeah, I was cheering him on. But whatever, women are a lost cause anyway, so who cares? Like, that's probably why I have some ironically cucked views on women. Because I'm just like, whatever, they're a lost cause. Like, who cares? Like, why even bother with them, Why even bother trying to control them at this point? It's like, whatever, leave them alone, let them do their dumb shit. Let them experience the consequences for it, and, But that's one of the problems too. We don't actually do that. We don't let them experience the consequences. We let them do what they want, and at the same time, we also try to shield them, from the consequences. Single mother welfare being like the biggest example of that kind of thing. Yeah. Black and Latino women are especially bad too. And it's like, yeah, it's partly our fault as men. They're the spoiled kid in the house, at the same time. So it's like, what can we do? There's a spoiled kid in the house that's always getting over on the bigger and smarter and more responsible kid. Just imagine a little girl smacks her older brother and tells the parents, and they say to the brother, leave your sister alone. And then she sneers at him and mocks him, when the parents aren't looking. That's the relationship between the sexes and society, right there, in a nutshell. But yeah, normies want us to participate in the festivities and so on because they want to mog us. That's what it is. When the socially awkward kid gets invited to a party by Chad or Stacy, the fix is in already. And if my friends happen to be watching this, I'm not talking about you guys, but I'm talking in general. The fix is in. They're already laughing to themselves when they do that shit. They're thinking, haha, we got our whipping boy for the evening. That's what they're thinking in their heads. They just want somebody to use as a punching bag. That's how normies are. People's perception of themselves is based on how above other people they are. Like when you meet up with people for the first time in a long time, what comes up oftentimes is what you do for a living. Like, oh, what do you do now? How's school and shit like that. Women especially do this because they want that gossip, right? And it's like crack to them. They'll find a way to talk shit about your life situation to make themselves feel better, regardless of how good you have it or how happy you are in actuality, because they're crabs in a bucket. And they're usually jealous too. People are constantly comparing themselves to others. Social media has made it worse. And alright, maybe I'm not actually that cynical, and sometimes Chad is a real bro. I guess it happens. Again, normies want us to participate because they want to mog us. Same principle as women who hate MGTOW. For example, MGTOW, men going their own way. We know that most MGTOW guys are not wanted by women. So why do women hate it then? Why do women care to even comment on MGTOW? If anything, they should celebrate men going their own way, because it's men that they don't want anyways, you know? So it's like, great, more Chads or whatever. But the thing is, they know that every guy that actually practices a MGTOW lifestyle is one less man that can be exploited by a female. One less orbiter, one less beta getting mogged by Chad, one less cuck for the polyamorous circle. But also, God forbid, Chad forsakes marriage and relationships with women. That's what really pisses them off too. Leonardo DiCaprio, who I mention every so often here. At least the ones that can potentially get a rich Chad, you know. But even the ones that probably can, like they'll, because, you know, I guess maybe they're deluded into thinking they can, or I don't know. But, you know, it's all about sex and looks, man. It is. I was always pretty black-pilled. I always kind of knew about the incel community, but I wasn't consumed by the shit until like 2017 or something. I think it was a little bit before, not too long before the Alec Manassian shit happened. Anyways, before I was really into it, I had a conversation with this girl where I basically outlined the black pill. I used models as an example. I was just like, these people get millions of dollars just because they were born with certain looks. And I pointed out how predetermined a person's life is based on genetics and shit they can't control. And like, you can't even control where you're born. Most of the really big early decisions in your life are made for you already. You know, of course she didn't want to believe any of that, even though she was as much of a lookist as you can get. But yeah, sex and looks. I read an article about some rabbi who had a harem where he brainwashed women into thinking that he's the Messiah. And there was a psychology site I used to go on. I can't remember the name exactly. Maybe I'll find it someday. This woman had a huge interest in the psychology of psychopaths and cults and shit like that. And one of the things, I don't know, maybe she was a secret cultist or, you know, someone who aspired to that or whatever secretly. She did look kind of crazy, honestly. But one of the things I took away from it, she didn't really sugarcoat too much. But she said the purpose of a cult, once you get past the BS, is always for the leader to get as much sex as possible. And that goes back to mogging. I feel like a lot of these corrupt preachers and shit, once you get into this religion, you know, it's because they get into that shit because they want to mog people, you know. God is just the excuse. You know, God is just the justification. Oh, yeah, God said, you know, that you should give me some pussy. God said that I'm the Messiah. Yes, and that's why I think about Jesus sometimes. Like, was Jesus one of these people, and he just happened to be really, really successful? Like, was Jesus one of these cult leaders, and he just happened to become like this? I wonder that all the time. But yeah, sex is always a part of it with these people. Especially with the homosexuality and the pedophilia and the perversion that you constantly see in spiritual or religious groups. At least with the Satanists, they're open about it, you know. Funny thing is, most people probably don't even realize what, you know, that they have these motivations, you know, of like sex and all that. Most people have zero introspection, and they will never take an honest or serious enough look at themselves to see what motivates them. Knowledge of self scares them. They rather keep deluding themselves into thinking that they're good people. And that's always the worst person, because they can't acknowledge their own capacity for evil. Anyways, I'm making pretty good time with this video, I think. I hope. So let's see. Kind of unrelated, but I was talking to someone recently, and he said, I know how to survive in this bitch very proudly, you know. But it's like, everyone knows how to survive. It's literally what we're biologically wired to do. You could throw a rich person on the street and eventually they'll figure it out. Life finds a way. The only person who would brag about being able to survive is a person who's been forced into situations where they had to actually worry about that. Fuck surviving. That's not something to be proud of. Living is what you should be proud of. When you look back on your life, what do you want to say? Oh, I survived. Seriously? That's why I really feel like most people aren't thinking. And I have nothing against this person. I kind of do, I guess, but I hardly even know him. But I do get bad vibes, like, to borrow a normie term. Anyways, when you're looking back on your life, wouldn't you rather be able to say, wow, I really enjoyed the ride? You can survive on a 9 to 5. You can survive on that. You can survive in a lot of really shitty situations. But it's like, are you living? Are you thriving? Are you enjoying this shit? You can survive on a 9 to 5. But I don't have the employee gene, whatever that is. I don't have it. I'm a worker, but I'm not an employee. I just can't do that shit. You can survive working your entire life and have little to nothing to show for it. You can survive in an unhappy relationship. You can survive never having pursued your dreams. You can survive in all sorts of shitty situations, Like I'm saying, can you thrive? Can you live? Because that's the person I want to emulate. Not the person that's satisfied with mere survival. And okay, maybe I took this guy completely out of context and he would totally agree with me on everything I just said. But I'm just saying, that's how I interpreted what he said. It's also funny and disappointing. This is kind of related to like the normie thinking or whatever. I was in an elevator and, this being America, of course, we have screens everywhere. And there was this little screen in the elevator with the news, and it showed what the most common New Year's resolutions were. And it was bullshit, of course, like normal weight bullshit. Dieting, losing weight, etc. I was just thinking, wow, motherfuckers don't want to change the world or turn their lives around, start a business, become financially independent, gas the Jews, like they just want to lose weight. And I just thought that was funny. That to me encapsulates norminess right there. Just like, it's a new year, it's a new decade. How are you going to change your life? How are you going to improve your life? Oh, I just lose weight. It's like, really? Fuck, like where your aspirations are. Like, damn, man. While we're on the topic of normies, I love my mom, but she is delusional. I never had a chance with a delusional parent like this. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm calling a spade a spade. There's no point in arguing. So I was just like, you know what, you're right. Because I told her for New Year's, this is supposed to be a good year for me, but I think God already decided that he hates me. And when I say God, I obviously mean in like my, whatever, pantheistic way, I guess, of thinking. Like the universe already decided that it hates me because I was born sub-7 and all that shit. And she was like, wow, why would you say that? Blah, blah, blah. God is love. 1,000-mile journey starts with 1 foot. And I'm like, fine, I guess that's true. But, I mean, it's a matter of perspective, I guess. But it's like, God already made his choice the moment I was born, a neurodiverse sub-7 black man with bald genes. The die was cast already. There's no way to survive in this world if you have my profile unless you're a masochist. And I'm not a masochist, so I kill myself every day that I'm alive, spiritually. I'm gonna break before I bend. A lot of guys are, I think, because this world is becoming more and more hostile to masculinity. Like, you guys saw that thing with the fat girl and the four cucks that are sharing her or whatever, or she's sharing them or whatever. That's the future of humanity. Unless we do something to stop it, which doesn't seem likely right now. It's just, you just see the pure look of self-loathing on those guys' faces. And like I said, a lot of us are gonna break before we bend. And when I break, I hope that God should bless me to take a lot of motherfuckers with me. Because a lot of us are gonna go ER, like, just go postal. And people victim blame too. But guess what? Because guess what? We are, like, we're the victims of this society. It's like a kid that gets bullied and goes to school and decides that he doesn't like school anymore. If he ever did. People are more inclined to get mad at the kid than at, his situation, or like to sympathize or whatever. How could you not like school? You're gonna be a loser, you're lazy, which is normies' way of guilt tripping you because you don't want to be cattle, you don't want to follow the herd, you don't want to be a pawn in somebody's game. They call you lazy. But yeah, people get mad at me. They get mad at the kid for hating school who gets bullied every day. Stay in school, get your education, you'll get the last laugh. Bullshit. Like I said before, the bullies, the bullies in school tend to be the bullies in real life too, in the real world too. That shit translates directly into adult life, alright? School prepares you for the real world. It does. Just not in the way normies want us to think. Prepares you for the social hierarchy that's going to exist in the real world, quote unquote. We're going to talk about colorism a little bit. But suffice it to say, all else being equal, a light-skinned black man is more privileged than a dark-skinned Indian man. That's all I got to say about that for now. Fucking back is hurting. Give me a second. Damn, I've been sitting like this for so long now. Trying to crack my back, but I can't because my setup is so fragile. Whatever, I'm almost done with this actually. Chad might not actually have it as good as we think he does. Chad can be a bored, lonely god, depending on how his brain is wired, I guess. And maybe even if he's dumb as rocks, right? It's lonely at the top. Same thing with Stacy, honestly. We're all bored gods to an extent because we live in a privileged modern society. And being Chad is a red-pilled experience. This might actually not be a cope because I've gotten a droplet of the Chad life. The 1 out of a million women that like me are very enthusiastic, and they basically treat me as you would expect a Chad to be treated. But I mean, eventually you get tired of sex, especially with the same person. It's like, yeah, some Chads are monogamous, contrary to popular belief. Even with the female, eventually she gets, quote unquote, sex out of her system, and then it's like, okay, now what? Now beta bucks, right? It's also kind of demoralizing knowing that the only reason that a girl is with you is superficial and material. She doesn't care about who you are as a person. She doesn't care about your politics, about your passions in life. None of that shit. She just wants money and maybe your semen. All she cares about is how you serve her immediate material, superficial interest. Women love, quote unquote, under material and superficial conditions. It's only really men who love people beyond what they provide because we can provide for ourselves. We don't need other people to provide, really. So we have the freedom to like somebody for who they are, and that's it. But it's like, yeah, it's demoralizing because it's like they only like you because you passed the looks threshold and like all that kind of shit. And it's never enough anyways, because as soon as some bigger Chad comes along or some better looking guy or whatever, she gets bored and then you're done. But as men, we kind of stick to our commitments like that. Like, we're not spoiled like that. We don't feel entitled like that either. So we tend to stick it out more than they do, I think. Because it's like, whatever, like, shit happens, like, things normalize. It's not supposed to be, you're not supposed to, like, you can't just be madly in love with somebody like that for all the time. Like, that's not how it works. It's not how human nature works. Eventually you do reach a normalization stage in the relationship, like, past the honeymoon phase, and it's like, alright, cool. That can be cool too, honestly. It's like, I've been told by Michelle Langley, at least, that's more like a sedative drug as opposed to a stimulant drug. When you get to that stage in a relationship, it's more of a comfort drug than a excitement, hype kind of drug. Anyways, yeah, women cuck men, like Captain Obvious, right? I was in a quasi-relationship with a girl, and anytime Chad entered the room, I ceased to exist. And, okay, I'm sure she got a kick out of embarrassing me like that, and it was like kind of a game. My ex, actually, who's not the same person, literally told me that I make her feel like she's not punching above her weight. These bitches don't care, man. They don't care. That's why I always say some women are so fucked in the head and insecure that they will actually date a low SMV man because they feel like they have more control in that situation. And, of course, that goes back into the fat bitch with the 4 cocks, too. And they know Chad is not the secure option, too. Some women are anxious enough and forward-thinking enough that they actually will probably avoid Chads a little bit, Sounds crazy, but I think it's true. I'm living proof, honestly. But back to Chad being a bored god. At some point or another, sex is the same thing as jerking off, isn't it? I didn't think I would really say that. That might actually contradict what I was saying before, not too long ago about is validation important and all that. But again, as I also say a lot, maybe it's just a matter of perspective, right? But yeah, I've had periods in my life where I was doing it consistently, and I was like, yeah, this is cool. But it does get boring after a while. It's like, and the only thing that's gonna make it not boring is a new person. Maybe. It's sad, but it's true. This is not to encourage polyamory because even that shit gets boring. Like I'm saying, you're a bored god. If you can really have that lifestyle successfully, in terms of getting like sex from a bunch of different people as a man. On paper, the best thing you can do for a relationship is not fall into a pattern. But us being human beings, that almost always happens. It's in our nature. You can actually experience more variety with one person than you can with 100 people if you play your cards right. At least that's what Michelle Langley teaches, and I do agree. But I don't know, it's just like I've never actually seen that, I don't think, in a relationship. And usually when you do see it, it's like it's the rocky roller coaster Chad and Becky type relationships. It's like he's breaking her heart every 2 seconds and that kind of shit, and like beating her up, and he's a criminal, and like it's usually that kind of shit, right? Because that's variety. Variety is the spice of life. That's probably why they like, those kinds of dudes a lot. But yeah, getting somebody else is just the easy way out. Like, just fuck, I'm bored. I'm gonna move on to somebody else. And oftentimes it's actually a fallacy, as Michelle Langley teaches, because you end up in the same fucking pattern with that new person. Same monotone bullshit. It's like maybe you experience that high with the new person for the first month or so, and then it just kind of gradually disintegrates like every other relationship. So it's like maybe it's your approach, maybe it's you, and like how you approach it that you should change, rather than just getting a new person, just swapping, somebody. Maybe the change that needs to be made is internal and not external. Women don't get that though. Hold on. Bottom shelf vodka. I gotta stay sane somehow. Like, damn, leave me alone. Anyways, I went to a club recently. Yeah, I know. Shut the fuck up. And it was an alright time. It's more about the company you're in than the actual event that you're going to. Like, I can have a good time anywhere, any place. This is long. If I'm with my friends, I'm good. And that's fine. I'm good. If I'm with my friends, I'm good. And anyways though, parties make me realize how much I hate people, and especially women. A party is really just a mog fest. It's going back to the main topic. 99% of the women who are there are just there to mog you. You approach them to dance or whatever, which I've never done. Okay, fine, I've done it like twice when I was like a young teen, like 14 and shit. And one of them was like an old lady, and it's like I wasn't trying to smash her, I just felt like dancing with the bitch. It's that simple. And the other one was at prom, I think, and this girl I had a crush on who had a mustache. Why I had I don't know, maybe I'm secretly gay. I'm just kidding, I'm not secretly gay. But she kinda, it wasn't like a big mustache, like but she was still, attractive to me, despite that. But if looking back on it, I'm like, damn, wow, she was fucking ugly. Like, I don't know why I had a crush on her. Maybe it was like selective, like I was finding my looks match or something. I don't know. I was just like, I didn't even bother with the girls that I knew were too Stacy for me or something like that. And we had the same heritage and shit like that, and but whatever. But yeah, you approach women and they give you this nasty look like, ew, go away. That shit is hurtful, and it's no wonder. And again, like I'm saying, like I've never actually done this, but I've seen it happen enough times that I pretty much feel it, like seeing other guys experience that kind of shit. Shit is hurtful, and it's no wonder some of these cunts get beat up or raped sometimes, because that's how they treat us. It's like no empathy. All empathy in the world is reserved for women. I swear. It's like we don't get shit. That's why I like Patrice O'Neal, because he was like, I just hate living in a world where, as a man, everything you do is bad. Everybody assumes the worst of you. And when you're a woman, it's the opposite. Everything you do is wonderful and lovely, even despite how objectively bad it is. Despite how objectively good you are as a man, you're still treated as shit, like you're not good enough. And I just hate that. I hate that dichotomy. It's not fair. It's oppressive, honestly. Anyways, I was in a mood. I'm not gonna lie. I wanted to fight somebody. Of course, everybody's a tough guy until they get their asses kicked. And that includes me. Maybe I do need a good ass whooping, but honestly, I'll probably come out of it feeling good. Because I was on some Fight Club kind of shit. I wanted to vent. I wanted to get my anger out of my system. So, in the most visceral way I could think, I was screaming about Jews at some point. a little bit. And I think a Jew does own this club I went to. Because I lost my jacket, and, you know, I had to email them and shit. Anyways, and I saw the, you know, the name of the person who emailed me back or whatever, and it's like, oh, fucking kike. And it's in New York. I mean, we call this shit Jew York for a reason, right? I said something like, "There's too many Jews in this bitch," and I think I heard somebody make an offhanded comment, and I said it really loud, like at the top of my lungs. Anyways, some girl was dancing a little too close to me, and I don't know if she's trying to what she's trying to pull, or if it was intentional, or if I missed out on some pussy, or like I don't know what was going on, but I wasn't there for girls, you know. I was just like, man, for the reasons I've already mentioned, like it's just some mog fest. These girls, like they're slores, you know, they're like worthless. They're, you know, if you're a girl and you're in the club, you're whack to me, you know. Especially considering like I'm coming out of a relationship with a girl who would never be caught dead in a club, you know, ever. Much less socializing with normies and shit like that. But I don't know. Kind of like a super avoidant personality, I guess. It's like she does want those things, but she's so socially anxious that she can't bring herself to even go outside, much less go to a club and like shit like that. Which is dumb, honestly. It's like there's nothing to be afraid of, you know. It's just like you're just among people. Anyways, I'm gonna move on. But yes, I don't know if she's trying to pull this girl dancing too close to me, and she's like kind of like not like grinding on me, but like kind of bumping up against me. Not like you couldn't really tell whether it was intentional or not, and I pushed her, you know, and I shoved her away from me, and she kind of flew. I'm not gonna lie, she went like a few feet. So I guess I pushed her a little too hard. I don't know, or she's lighter than she looked. She's really skinny, so I guess that makes sense. And naturally, the white knights descended upon me. All right, you know that train is never is never late, right? That's a woman, blah blah blah, and I'm just like, yo, don't get in my face over a bitch. You know, that's not an argument I'm sympathetic to. It's really not. And I was like, so what? I'm a man, you know. And then I called the guy a faggot, and it kind of just died from there. Mind you, I'm basically screaming because it's a club. It's loud. I was feeling some type of way, like they say. It wasn't cool, though, I'll admit. I was an ignorant bastard on that one. I have a lot of anger, like I'm saying, and it's bottled up. And that was just the perfect place for it to come out. But, you know, I meant to apologize, but for random reasons I didn't. Actually, my friend was like, "Nah, it's not gonna make a difference." But I still wanted to. Even now, I still feel bad about it. Actually, I'm a conscious human being. Like, I'm not a psychopath. At least not that much of a psychopath, if you want to call it that. You know, I do feel bad about things. I feel bad, like when I hurt people and stuff. Which even a psycho, I don't know. I feel like people kind of overestimate the supposed lack of empathy that psychopaths have, and like they look at it superficially, but it's like deep down you don't really know what that person is feeling, you know, or if they feel remorse or like that's a whole subjective thing. Whether a person feels remorse or not, like how do you even you're not in their head really. Anyways, it was very odd character. And I almost wrote my friends into some bullshit too, so I felt guilty about that too. But they were white people, so they weren't gonna do shit. So maybe subconsciously that's why I did it. You know, I was trying to mog in a situation where I was being mogged, like murder. But yeah, she saw those white knights come. You know, and all women know. They know that all they have to do is wait. You could see them just waiting for somebody to leap to their defense, and it never fails, to happen. It's like when a guy has lackeys and he hands something to them without even looking, like, here, hold this for a second, he doesn't even look back, and the person grabs it. That's women and white knights right there, and cucks and lackeys, lapdog men, beta males. Ironically, it's extremely sexist too. I mean, just like how, racism disproportionately affects black men, pretty much all the sexism in the world, well, the lion's share of damn, what's the word I'm looking for? Malignant sexism affects men, Because when he said that's a woman, all I could think is, oh, I thought we were equal. Because, this being New York, these people are progressive, 99% chance. People always assume the worst of you when you're a man. Like I was saying. Especially a black man. So maybe with good reason, fine. But, imagine if the situation was reversed. No drama would have ensued whatsoever. Even if she slapped me in the face, no one would give a shit. And that's exactly what I hate. And maybe that's why I escalated like that. Or tried to. Parties really show you how the social dynamic works. Generally. A bunch of thirsty dudes in a room with slutty ass whores. Like snakes in the fucking Indian flute. In the vase or whatever. Gypsies. Pretty much all these women have boyfriends too. And they're probably even there with their boyfriend. Skimpily dressed. Scandally clad. Whatever. Shaking her ass. Twerking. Because the boyfriend's not enough validation for her. It's not enough anymore just to have a boyfriend as a female. In 2020, you think that's enough? Ha! In the era of reality TV and Instagram and Kim Kardashian and Tinder, and that's not enough just to have a boyfriend. Nah. It's not even enough to have multiple boyfriends for a lot of these egomaniac females. It's depressing when you stop and think about it. The co-ed dynamic is destructive, like I always say. I made a video about that. I probably made several. That's why a lot of cultures, the men hang out with the men, the women hang out with the women. The only time the sexes ever cross over is family gatherings, maybe some special events, some really special events. That's how it tends to be anyways, even in the co-ed dynamic. Like, the men pretty much speak to the men for the most part, the women pretty much. And it's like, the only time there's any crossover is if the woman wants attention or if the man is trying to fuck. That's when you see the crossover. It's like, and that's sad, isn't it? Like, a man, we never just want to talk to a female just to talk. That's rare. At best, that's rare. They never want to talk to us just to talk to us, And they also just look at us like we're vipers or, like that's all we want all the time. And a lot of these women, they have big egos. Like, they think you want to fuck sometimes. It's like, no, just having a conversation. Anyways, it's sad. Sex really is a corrupting force in that way. But that's what the same sex is for, like, so it balances out, really. Kind of. But even those conservative cultures can be pretty corrupt. I'm slowing down. This video came to a crawl just now, because I guess because of that shot I took or whatever. Or that was multiple shots, but even conservative cultures can be very corrupt. Like, it's not like there's no corruption there, Humanity is just a shitty species all around. Like, let's be real. And yeah, I include myself in that, but at least I'm conscious, Another thing, like I was saying, everything's about pussy in the co-ed dynamic. Like this shit is for women too. Dudes just their max. They dance. Dancing is not for men, in my opinion. I mean, I can dance, and it can even be enjoyable. But I've been told I can dance pretty good, or really good actually. But I don't want to be entertainment for whores, I don't want to jester max like that. If anything, I'll dance when I'm alone or some shit. Well, that'd be gay actually. I don't do that. Or or among close friends or something. I don't know. But like if I was in a Native American tribe, I'd gladly participate in the dancing and shit. But in modern society, dancing is for women and gay men. Everything is centered around women and their egos, feminine worship. And the men's ego to an extent because they want to fuck. They want to mog other men by fucking this bitch or whatever. So who can get this bitch? Who can get that bitch? It can be fun to be ignorant and degenerate to an extent. But I'm on the losing end of the equation, so what do I care? So this is Obsidian Pill signing out. Peace.